the balancing point there of walking the line between the spiritual world and the business world, which is it's always a challenge. So you know, because in our business world, we're sitting in our left brain, and in the spiritual world, we're in our right brain. And so a lot of the work that I do with people is about balancing both half of their brains. And so it's about bringing the two pieces together. And so whether you talk about that in terms of balancing the masculine and the feminine, or in terms of left brain, right brain, or you know, active and passive, and you know, focused and structured versus intuitive and receiving and flowing, you know, all of those pieces really say the same thing. And that's really the work that I do, is that sort of coming into divine union with yourself to bring yourself into your full authenticity so that you shine out and then people are attracted. And so that's really the work that I do in the world.
Great. And you have very abundant, prosperous life, Kelle. How did you find your life's purpose, your mission? Because it's very difficult for a lot of people to find what they love or what they want to do. And how did you find this? And maybe you can say some recommendations how people can do the same and be happy, happy in family life, in business life, very successful in financial. So.
Yeah, big question. All right, I'll do the best I can. We actually spend 3 days working with people on this process in our Mission Manifesting Bootcamp workshop. But actually, it's funny that you're asking, because we've just put up a whole bunch of videos about this on our brand new YouTube channel. So I'll give you sort of the overview, and then I'll point you to the YouTube channel for sort of the details. But all right, so let's start with the easiest things to do, which is how do you stop doing the things you don't like, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of our people, that's the challenge, is that they do these things that they hate every day, and they think, well, I have to do this. And so, you know, for me, I spent the first 28 years of my life creating what over here is known as the American dream. You know, it's that, you know, you do the checklist, you get the good job, or you build your own business. I built my own business, and you get married, and you know, I had a really gorgeous husband, and he was a military officer, and we had a dog and a house and 2 cars, and we lived on a cul-de-sac lot. And you know, the only thing we didn't have as part of the quote-unquote American dream was children, but since he never wanted any and I wasn't sure what I wanted at the time, that was okay. But the upshot of it is that I got there, and I was a pillar of my community. I was volunteering, I was on the board of directors, I was really successful, and I hated my life. And I felt like I'd been sold a bill of goods, you know? It's like, what do you mean I hate my life? You guys told me I was gonna like this. This is what I was supposed to want. What is up? And so the problem with all of this is that you gotta be building a life based on what you want, not based on what people tell you you should want. And that's people as in the culture. So for me, it was the American dream and the culture. But for many people, it's their parents, right? So our parents set their expectations for what we should want. And when you set your expectations and your dreams based on your parents' designs or on your culture's designs or whatever you're taking it from, and not on what's true for you, then you're going to be doing things that you don't want to be doing. And so that's the very first step, is to really get in touch with what makes you happy and what you want for your life. And so for me, I realized that I had patterned on the movie Auntie Mame from the 1960s. And Mame was this amazing, over-the-top character who traveled the world and had amazing friends who were all actors and musicians and forward thinkers. And I realized that my entire life I had wanted to be Auntie Mame without all the alcohol. because she was also a big drinker back then. So I didn't really want to be a big drinker, but I wanted her life. And so that's what I did. I set out to get that. I literally scrapped everything in my life and started over. And that is really the life that I have created for myself today. You know, I've gone about really pursuing my spiritual practices because you know that's very important to me, and I still pursue business because I love it. It's something I've been fascinated with since I was 20, and actually probably earlier because I helped my mother start her first business when I was 13. So so you know, it's really about looking at what you're passionate about. And you'll know what you're passionate about if you sit down and do what we call life review. And you just write down all the things that you've done in your life. It's not just your resume, you know, it's literally looking at, you know, where did you volunteer? What do you do on your off time as a hobby? What do your friends come to you for that you do just because you do it? What are the things that you do and you don't think about because they're easy for you? And this is one of the problems. A lot of people think, oh, well, my mission can't be this. That's just too easy. Everybody can do that, right? And the fact is usually no, not everybody can do that. It's just easy for you because it's one of your gifts. And so really question when you say, oh, no, that can't be it. That's just easy. Everybody can do that. If that thought comes through your head, start asking people if they can do it. And if a lot of them say no, then yeah, that might be your gift. That might be part of your mission. And so that's part of it. Part of it's just ripping out the stuff you don't want. For a lot of people, the simple revolutionary act of doing one thing a day, every single day that makes you happy, can be life-changing. And so and you know, culturally it varies. So I'm not as familiar with Russian culture, so I'm not going to be able to speak to your cultural stuff. But here in the States, we as women in particular, we get the message that it's our job to make everyone else happy, to be the grease that oils the wheels of society, and that we're to sacrifice ourselves for that cause. And so, you know, when I talk to women here in the States about what makes them happy, they're clueless. They're like, huh, what? I get to be happy, huh? You know? So I know a few Russian women. I don't think you guys have that problem, which is awesome because you guys are ahead of the game on that one. So, you know, we have a pretty strong Russian community here in Boston. So, but, you know, there's a practice to really stepping into and validating an authentic, validating yourself. You know, not looking outside for that, but really choosing to engage and express yourself in ways that don't require other people to like what you have to say. Because oftentimes we'll change our words, or we'll modify what we're going to say, or we'll hedge around the outside of something because we don't want to piss somebody off, right? And so it's like, no, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm very diplomatic and I can say things in ways that are extremely diplomatic if I need to. It doesn't change the text of what I'm saying. It doesn't change the substance. So there are ways to say things that are really in your face about what you're trying to say, and there are ways to say things that are softer but still say what you want to say. I'm not saying to always be in your face. What I'm saying is always say what you have to say. Yeah, and you know, I hear this all the time from people in relationship too, and it's like, oh, well, I can't tell this person that I'm with this thing about me because it might destroy the relationship. I'm like, well, the minute you stop telling them what's your truth, you come out of the relationship to begin with because you've stopped relating. And when you stop relating, you've already destroyed the relationship. So you might as well take the chance and tell them because you're already done. You don't realize that you're rotting a dead carcass of a relationship right now because you've stepped out. The minute you step out, you're done. So might as well step back in and go for the gusto. So these are the sorts of things that I talk with people people about, and these are the sorts of ways that you can step into your life and really go for what it is that you want. So there's one thing that tends to get in people's way about this, and I'll keep talking as long as as long as you let me. So if you have another question, you jump in. But there is one thing that I do want to address, and that's fear, and that's because that's the thing that gets in people's way most often. Is they get afraid. They're like, well, what if it doesn't work, or what if I lose what I've already got, or what if I don't like what I'm asking for. What if it's not what I expect, or what if it's exactly what I expect, and then I have to be somebody different, and I'm not sure I can be that person. There's all sorts of what ifs in that process, and so what I'm going to say to you is this: courage is fear shoved down and locked in place and said, yep, that's okay. I'm going to be afraid and I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And the act of courageousness is a muscle like anything else. And so if you are a fearful person and you don't do a lot of things that are courageous, do one small act of courage a day. And it doesn't have to be horrific. It could be saying hello to the person who intimidates you. It doesn't have to be big. But one small act of courage a day will strengthen that courage muscle. And each time you do an act of courage, make sure it makes you go gulp before you do it. It has to be a hold your breath moment and go, oh, can I really do this? And then go do it. Because if you're not doing that, it's not an act of courage. If it doesn't make you stop and go, oh crap, before you do it, it's not an act of courage. And so as you do that, each time you do it, it'll be a bigger act of courage. Because the small ones will have gotten out of the way and you'll have gotten evidence that the fear wasn't real in a lot of instances. And so that will be really helpful in terms of getting over the fear. And then the other side of it is you have to be willing to accept the consequences of whatever it is that you choose. And that means you have to want it more than you are afraid of it. And afraid of the consequences. And there's just no getting around that. And so there are two ways to make that easier. The first way is to get really good with your courage. And the other way is to get really good at not being attached to what you have. And that is about holding things more lightly and saying, okay, I trust that in choosing a life or a particular thing that is more resonant with me, that is going to make me happier, that the consequences of that action will also be better for me in the long run. So those are the two pieces to fear.
Thank you, Kelle. Kelle, and you've mentioned that about your checklist, goals, and you're living a dream life. How did you start? What techniques can help you unlock potential, unlock your break your fears? I know you're an expert in affirmations and meditations. What was your first steps? How did you start it? And because you mentioned that you didn't have such successful, such happy life before.
Well, actually, it was a very successful life. It just wasn't a life I liked. It's just one of those things. All right, so the first thing I'm going to tell you is that I hate affirmations. I hate affirmations because most of the time they are people looking in the mirror and telling themselves something that they know isn't true. Okay? And for someone like me who's very reality-minded, I'm essentially an engineer. I'm an engineer for energy and people instead of an engineer for buildings and structures. But I'm essentially an engineer. For those of us who are really reality-focused, really, really based in reality, affirmations are tough because we're saying something we know isn't true. And trying to believe something that you know isn't true is very tough. And so what I say is, rather than doing an affirmation, speak what you know is true that is positive about yourself. And the challenge for most people is that they spend a lot of time beating up on themselves and saying, you know, oh, I'm terrible at this and I suck at that and look at what I did wrong here and da-da-da-da-da, right? And what you really need to be doing is saying, these are the things that I'm awesome at. This is how I rock in the world. This is what I am really amazing at. And really pump yourself up about the stuff that is good about you, that you know is true. Because when you do that, you support yourself. And so, you know, one of the assignments that I tend to give a lot of my clients is building what I call a Go Me box. And that is a list of every testimonial you've ever received, every nice letter or card anyone's ever sent you, any email that somebody said you're awesome, you know, all of the Facebook posts where people say, oh my God, I love you so much, whatever. And just every time something like that happens, just print it out. Print it out and stick it in a box. And anytime you're questioning whether or not you are on the right track or you're a good person or whatever it is that you're questioning, you pull out that box and you read the whole thing. And if you're someone who's having a hard time believing that you've got value or that you're able to do something, or if you're not sure that you can overcome something, you know, just pull out that box and read it every single day for a week. And I guarantee you, you will feel better. And this is the factor. It's not about affirming, oh, you know, I have $1 million and I drive a BMW and I have a house on the beach. And aside from the fact that no one who lives in a house on the beach and drives a BMW and has $1 million, nobody thinks like that. If they already have those things, they're givens in their world. They don't think like that. And so you're not thinking like someone who has it. Someone who has it takes those things for granted. They're like, yeah, that's my car. You know, they don't go, oh yeah, that's my BMW 560, blah, 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 blah. They go, hey, yeah, that's my car, that's my house. Hey, yeah, you know, I've got an investment portfolio, it's cool. They don't think about it as in, which is how those of us who don't have it in that fashion think of it, right? And so it's not actually bringing you into energetic alignment. In the law of attraction, the energetic alignment process is actually a function of putting yourself into the energy field of someone who already has that. And if you don't have a concept of what that energy field feels like, then you don't have any way to do that. So there's a reason that they say that you are going to make the same amount of money as the 10 closest friends that you have. And that's because energetically you come into alignment with the people around you. And so if you want to know, if you want to have that house, and you want to have that $1 million portfolio, and you want to have that BMW, then you need to hang out with people who have those things, because you'll automatically come into energetic alignment with that.
Great.
But if you don't, then you don't know what the energy is that they're holding. And so there's no way for you to hold that alignment. Right? You know, personally, those are not on my goals. You know, a house on the beach, sure, that'd be great. I'm not attached to it. My goals are more about getting out into the world and bringing my work to more people, and about having really great connections in my life, and about really engaging my life at a level where I feel at the end of my life that I've completely used myself up. and you know, hit the goal line face plant first, you know. that is my goals. And so for me, it's not about accumulation of things and wealth. For me, it's about accumulation of experience and connection. And so, you know, it all depends on what your goals are. You know, not to say that I'm not interested in money, because money is good and it helps to promote the process. It's just that my end goal isn't the money. My end goal, money is a means to an end for me. Yeah. So, you know, for me, I look at it and I go, oh, I'm doing, 3 events a month, and I'm traveling around the world, and people are paying to have me come and work with them, and I'm really having an amazing experience, an amazing impact on the people that I'm connecting with, and I'm seeing the changes in the world as a result of that. And this is what is true for me right now, and I just am seeing it as a bigger thing. It's just I'm expanding the energetics of it. And so, find what is true for you right now and expand the energetics of it. That's the easiest way to bring things into form.
Thank you very much, Kelle.
Sorry, I got a little passionate.
That's great speech, great ideas and insights. So thank you very much, Kelle. And you talked about the importance of people. I know a lot of successful people have or had mentors and role models. Tell me please about your role models and mentors, maybe your favorite books and people who are around you, maybe are not famous, maybe they are famous. So because what you told, that if you want to have $1 million, just hang out and ask people who has the $1 million. So they think different. So what about your experience about that?
So, well, I already mentioned Dante Mame, who was named Dennis. She actually lived in the 20s.
Yeah.
And so she was probably the single most influential role model. Although I have to say that I have followed the careers of Oprah and Madonna.
Yeah.
Because they're like trailblazers who do their own thing and really are just who they are out in the world. And having known them through their careers, I was in Maryland when Oprah was on Dialing for Dollars, which was, a local show, I really feel a connection in that regard. But locally, personally, there have been a lot of people who have impacted my life. But I'd say probably most significantly would be my friend Ken, who really was my shaman. He was my teacher. And there was a group of people I lived with in a house in North Attleboro, Massachusetts, shortly after I got my divorce and chucked my life. And those people probably were really the most influential, because we spent 4 years in serious, deep spiritual work together. We lived in the same house. We did magical workings together. We learned ritual practice together. We did a huge amount of personal growth and development work in that process, and really digging deeper into ourselves and learning more about who we are and that sort of thing. And in the course of that work and really digging deep into that process was how all of my life has stemmed out of there. And my shaman, Ken, he really taught me a lot of the foundations of the work that I do today, and reminded me of a lot more stuff and that I just intuitively remember, either from past lives or from, I've been studying since I was 7, so a lot of this stuff is just in the back of my brain and I don't even know it's there. My absolute favorite book of all times is Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah by Richard Bach. That book I've read many, many times over the course of my life. It's gotten me through some of the hardest times in my life. And it's absolutely the top of my list. I also really love The Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield. It really actually speaks to a lot of my personal experience of life. I talk to people about the fact that I'm really known for networking in my market, in my neighborhood. I'm really connected, and I go to a lot of groups, and I can walk into a room and I tell to people, like, look, I look for the bright, shiny person in the room, which is very much a Celestine prophecy sort of thing, but it's the person who pops out at me and it goes, oh, I need to talk to you. Okay. And so there's always this way in which that just shows up for me. My life has always been this sort of charmed, magical thing because I follow the flow and I look for the energy, you know. And so, you know, Ken was very instrumental in helping me to do that. Also in allowing me to sort of soften, because I spent a lot of my youth being very angry, and I needed to learn how to let go of that anger, and I needed to learn how to dig underneath that surface and find the pain that was underneath the anger, because anger is a secondary emotion. You know, it always comes out of frustration or pain or sadness or something. And he really helped me to tap into that first layer of that work, and I continued that work over the 10 years that followed. But there's been a series of teachers that have shown up for me over the years, and it's various and sundry people along the way. My current business partner, Kathy, is one of those teachers. You know, she and I have been friends for 11 years, and so, you know, it's I seem to have become surrounded by shamans without intending to. I know a lot of shamans, and I'm not sure how that happened. It just did. I didn't set out to make it so. It just happened that way. And so, you know, people are like, well, who is your teacher? And it's like, well, Ken's probably the only person I can look at and say he's my teacher, because I studied with him for a while, but not because it was a formal course of study, but because we lived together and we were close friends and we did work together. But everyone else has been my teacher along the way. It's just not through a formal course of study. You know, it's just happenstance. It's like, oh, you're here. Oh, let's do this together. Okay, great. Okay, what are you doing? Oh, you're doing, oh, that's a cool way of looking at that. Wow, yeah, all right. And then, of course, you know, I do something and they say the same thing back. And it's this exchange of information sort of thing. But, you know, I live a charmed life, and I went on walkabout for a year, and I went to places where shamans just showed up, and you know, this is part of following the path is these people tend to fall into place when you do things like that. And so, you know, not everyone has that opportunity, but I'll tell you, if you do, it's pretty awesome. So if you don't, then, you know, there's other ways to get it. It's just a matter of tapping in and finding who is the right person for you, you know, and that's if I were to give people one piece of advice, and I know you didn't ask me for this, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. If I were to give people one piece of advice about finding a teacher, it's to trust yourself. Because when you really trust yourself in the process of looking for a teacher, then you're going to find the right person. And the other thing that I'm going to say to you is, remember, no matter how amazing your teacher looks, they're still human, and not everything that comes out of their mouth is right. They're still learning on the path. They're still trying to understand what's going on. They may be 5 or 6 steps ahead of you, but they're still only 5 or 6 steps ahead of you, and they will change their mind somewhere along the line if they're actually growing as a person. And so, you know, when I talk to my students, that's one of the things I tell them is, look, challenge me, ask me questions, because these were not my beliefs 10 years ago. And I gave you, the students that I worked with 10 years ago, I gave them the best that I had in that moment at that time for who I was. And today I look back and I go, some of that stuff I said was wrong. So, you know, it's like, I did the best I could, you know? And that's always the case. So really take everything you get with a grain of salt, and remember that you are the one who is ultimately responsible for your life. And so you need to do what's right for you. And, you know, there's sometimes that your teacher's going to challenge you and you're going to feel like, I don't know that I can do this. And then you should, you know, step in and do it, because it's not that you are out of alignment with it, it's that it scares you. There's a difference. But sometimes your teacher's going to say do something and you're going to go, oh, and it's going to, on a body level, you're going to be like, that is just wrong. Trust that. Always trust that. That's where you and your teacher are out of alignment, and either your teacher doesn't know that they're telling you something that's wrong, or it's time for you to find a new teacher, because the path that your teacher is taking is not the path for you. And this may be right on the path that the teacher is taking, but it may be that's where your two paths diverge. It's rare for someone to stay with a single teacher their whole life.
Yeah.
And so, know that you come into someone's life for a period of time, and they're there to give you what they can give you and then move on. So, don't be so attached to the teacher that you don't listen to yourself, because this is your life and it's your job to do the best for you.
Kelle, and what's your definition of success? Because success is like very different.
It's very personal.
Personal, yeah.
I used to say that my definition of success was a hot tub. and that, that doesn't make a lot of sense to people, but for me it was, and when I say I used to, this was back when I was 28, my definition of success was a hot tub. It was having everything handled enough that I could afford the luxury of a hot tub at my house, right? And now I'm like, no, that's not my definition of success anymore. My definition of success today is, it's a really good question. I haven't actually formulated it. I should probably do that. Let me do that right now. My definition of success today is living well. And what that means to me is being able to share my gifts in the world in a way that is impactful for the people that I'm working with, and also for me, where I get to learn and grow from the process as well. And being able to do so in a way that is lush and rich, so that I can eat the good foods that I want, and I can be healthy, and I can be happy in my process of doing it. So, being able to fly first class instead of coach, so that I can be comfortable in my travels, right? And being able to stay at the nicer hotel and go to the nicer restaurant rather than eating fast food or something. It's not so much about having a lot of money as it is about being able to take really good care of myself in the process. And so, and money is important for that. Don't get me wrong; it's totally important for that. It's just that, again, means to an end, right? And so for me, it doesn't have to be my money. Someone else could pay for the ticket. I don't care how I get there. Someone else could pay for the dinner. I'm not attached to how the money gets paid. So that's why I'm saying it's not that I'm saying I have to have the money. It's just that these are the ways that I want to live my life. And that's another thing that people get wrapped up in is, oh, I have to have money. I have to. And if that's important to you, great. But if it's not, if what you really want is just the experience, then make sure that that's what you're asking for. And so there's an easefulness and a gracefulness and a flow that I associate with that living well piece as well. And most importantly is this sense of connection and being able to stay in integrity. And so the connection piece is really important, and having longer term connections. That was actually something that I went through with my business partner when we were talking about being on the road so much. I was really concerned that I was going to get disconnected from my life. And so I've put a lot of things in place to maintain my relationships because they're extremely important to me. And it was enough that I was actually sabotaging the process because I was worried that it wasn't going to happen. So this is, again, especially if you're in business with someone else, it's really important to have these conversations, because it's a marriage just like anything else, you know, and having a business partner is a marriage. And so, you know, Kathy and I often argue over who's the husband, but but the you know, you have to have these hard conversations about, you know, well, this is what I'm concerned about. These are my fears. This is what is important to me. This is how things are working and not working for me. And you've got to share expressions of love with your business partner too. I mean, Kathy and I will sit down periodically and say, this is what I love about you. This is what's awesome about you. And this is what I appreciate so much about being in business with you. And so, you know, that's really important too. And we don't think about that when we're in business with someone. We think, oh, well, it has to be business and professional. It's like, no, you know what? This is a relationship first,
Yeah.
and a business second. Because if the relationship doesn't work, the business will fail. And so you really, if you're in partnership, the relationship has to be your first priority, because everything else flows out of that. So yeah, a great relationship with my business partner, a great connection with my world, and you know, it'd be nice to have someone to a partner to share that with, but that's not a priority for me right now. So you know, I'm really busy birthing this process, and so if that comes along the side, that's great. And if it doesn't, that's fine too. Talk to me a year or two from now, it'll probably be built into the puzzle at that point. So success is an ever-changing definition.
Thank you. Kelle, and share please your point of view, some recommendations to young and maybe not very young people who want to succeed in life as you are, and help a lot of people to what you do probably, and a lot of other people do. So how they want to succeed in life. Do you have some recommendations to them?
Yeah, don't dream. And don't have a backup plan. Those are my two things. Dreams are not ever going to happen. Dreams are up here in the ethers, and they just don't exist. It would be nice if the thought comes through your head, wouldn't it be nice if? Wouldn't it be great if that thought is coming through your head, you are not actually going to get there. Because wouldn't it be nice if is a complete pipe dream. It's not going anywhere. The only things that ever happen in your life are goals.
Yes.
And so stop dreaming and start setting goals. And, you know, that means that and let me be clear, it's not a goal until you actually take your first step towards it. Because I see a lot of people go, okay, my goal, and New Year's is a classic time for this. Oh my God, my New Year's resolution is, most of them are pipe dreams, because they'll never do anything, or they'll do it for a week and then they'll stop, right? A goal is something that you take a step towards and you keep taking steps towards it. If you stop taking steps towards it, it stops being a goal. And so, you know, the best way for you to possibly know whether or not you're doing this is to write down your goals and keep them on a piece of paper or a whiteboard or a clipboard or something in front of you, and come back every week and look and say, have I made progress towards these things this week? And if the answer is no, you have to take it off the goal board and put it back on the dream board until you do something about it. And if you do that and you're consistent about that, then you will make progress. And what was the other thing I said? You asked me about success, right? Okay, I said stop dreaming. Oh, and don't have a backup plan. This is the other thing, is that people love to make backup plans. And I used to train brand new real estate agents way back when. And I would always ask the people in the room, how many people have a backup plan? And it never failed. The hands that went up at the beginning of the class were the ones who were not there by the end. And it's because when you have a backup plan, you give yourself permission to fail. And if you don't have a backup plan, then you don't have any option but to succeed. It's like, you know, when Cortez arrived in the New World, he burned the ships. That way they had no choice but to succeed because there was no going home, right? And so that's the sort of thing that I'm talking about. Burn the ships. Because if you don't burn those ships, there's always that thought in the back of your mind, well, I can always go back and do this. And that gives you permission to fail. And that you will automatically put less effort in. You will automatically be less committed. You will automatically, in every way possible, you will automatically assume that you will fail because that backup plan exists. And so those are the two things that if you just did those two things, I guarantee you your life will be significantly more successful than everyone you know.
Thank you very much for your inspiration, for your priceless wisdom and your time. Thank you very much. It was great pleasure for me to talk with you and to know you more. And I hope to see you soon, and maybe we can talk later. But it was really great pleasure for me and great honor.
Thank you. It was great to be here. Thank you, Pavel. Make sure you send me a link so I can share it with my peeps too.
Absolutely, I will. Kelle, and if I can help you anyway and support you, just let me know, because I'm very grateful to know you, and I see your Facebook page, and sometimes I'm on your sites, and that's very inspirational what you do, and that's thank you very much for your activity and what you do for hundreds and thousands of people all over the world.
You're very welcome. And, you know, if you want us to come to Russia and do Manifest Your Mission in Russia, we'd love to do that. So if that's something you would be interested in doing, you know, we can definitely talk about that.
Absolutely, Kelle. Thanks
so
very much.
We have manifestors that we work with. So, if you think you can get enough people in the door, we'll come.
Yes, that's great. That's great. Kelle, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, you and your family, and have a prosperous day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, Kelle. Bye.
Bye.